Blessings, Divine Reflection. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Idalis. I'm a healer, a psychic, and purveyor of the stars. That's right, I do astrology readings. If you would like a personal, in-depth session with me, links for that are in the bio. On my channel, I love to talk about esoterica and occult wisdom and give you practical tools to help you along your spiritual journey. In today's video, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about Pluto retrograde. I'm so excited for this video. We're going to be discussing the planet Pluto in astrology, what Pluto retrograde means for 2022 and for every Pluto retrograde in the future. You can come back to this video whenever Pluto goes retrograde again. Stay tuned all the way through to the end of the video so you don't miss any of this knowledge and facts and tips about how to survive Pluto retrograde. I'll see you in there. Mwah! Okay, first let's talk about the planet Pluto in astrology and some basic information about the planet Pluto and its influences in our solar system over our individual lives on a collective scale. So the planet Pluto rules over Scorpio. If you want more information on this particular zodiac sign, you can click up here. I have a whole playlist of all the signs that you can check out. So Scorpio is the sign of Pluto's dignity. The planet Pluto is also the farthest planet in our solar system, right? So there's a certain mystique and mystery associated with this planet, and as well is associated with isolation. And it also takes a full 248 years to return back to the sign it first began at. So in order for Pluto to travel all 12 signs, it takes 248 years. And Pluto actually goes retrograde every single year for about 5 months at a time. So this is a very significant planet when we're talking about retrogrades. And the biggest theme surrounding Pluto is its ability to transform whatever it is that it comes into contact with, right? And whatever sign that it inhabits and that it's currently embodying is going to shape and mold that sign. Now, when we're talking about transformation and the planet Pluto and its ability to transform, there is a process of rebirth that has to happen in order for transformation to take place. For this reason, Pluto also rules over death as well as rebirth. And the planet Pluto also rules over fusion and contraception and is a very sexual planet as well. It can rule over our desires when it comes to that particular physical act. It's about the coming together to make new, as well as the merging of consciousness, right? Now we're going to get more in depth into what Pluto retrograde means and how to cope with its influences, but whenever a planet goes retrograde, you can expect a bit of upset. And so this transformative urge that Pluto carries with it is going to, take more time. This change is going to either be incredibly disruptive, perhaps even a little bit chaotic, or you may be going through change that, is slow moving and it may be harder to feel as that you can get to the other end of said transformation. So because Pluto rules over death, it is also associated with disease and even disappearances. It's associated also with crime, manipulation, obsession, control, as well as wealth and power, and has the ability to affect the masses, right? Because it's so far away, its influences remain longer in a sign. The planet Pluto affects entire generations of people. So during a Pluto retrograde, you can expect to be dealing with all of these themes, right? There may be unexplained disappearances and perhaps a spike in crime rate or even unexpected deaths, whether that be emotional, breaking apart, or, physical loss. And there also will be power struggles taking place within large organizational structures, and depending on where Pluto falls in your chart, it will affect the power struggles between the dynamics in your own natal chart. Okay, and now the planetary retrograde of Pluto explained. What does Pluto retrograde mean for you, and how can you cope with this retrograde? So during Pluto retrograde, you can expect to be undergoing perhaps a process of rebirth, and you may feel alone in this process of becoming and undoing and rebuilding this new identity. You are shifting identities during this time. To deal with this kind of perhaps isolation you may feel during this process, it's important to take time to reflect and also become comfortable in this process, in this alone time, and to really nourish this time with yourself. We may also be feeling, on the flip side, hyper independent and actually quite capable to deal with this internal journeying. Speaking of internal journeying, there may also be something new to discover about yourself that you might not have learned before, or you're just entering a new level of said identity, of self-discovery. And this newness could also be an idea that gets sparked in the mind, or a new project, something that really matters to you. In order to use this energy to the best of your ability, I would suggest journaling, writing down your ideas, or even just developing a daily journal practice could be really beneficial to marking perhaps your growth. So during this time, we are also feeling very raw emotions. Okay, we are having a very visceral experience with our emotions, and also feeling hypersensitive to the world around us. Pluto does rule over a water sign, right? This is going to be somewhat of a sensitive time for us. So my suggestion on how to deal with this is to perhaps develop healing techniques on a mental, emotional, and physical level. Moving your body could be a way that you heal yourself. Seeking outside resources, perhaps an alternative medicine. Link is in bio. Check out my website, darling. I'm here for you. Yeah. Seeking alternative medicine, perhaps, exploring herbal remedies and plant medicine, or, seeking outside resources could also be just like phoning a friend and developing a support network around you for when you aren't feeling the best mentally, emotionally. Also, developing practices for trigger responses could be something that's beneficial for you during this time, like listening to music, calming music, learning to talk yourself down from perhaps a panic attack or an anxiety attack. There's like physical practices you can do, deepening into the present moment, focusing on things in your physical reality to center yourself, learning to develop healthy coping mechanisms for when you might fall into languid moods, lower frequency emotions. We all deal with them, and they're completely normal, and you're supposed to feel them, right? So yeah. And if I wasn't specific enough, there's so many types of alternative medicine that you can try. There's energy work, of course. There's hypnotherapy, there's craniosacral, and the list goes on. So the fourth thing that you can expect during a Pluto retrograde is dealing with loss, okay? This loss can be the loss of your identity, right? Learning how to cope with the emotional loss of a self that you once knew that is no longer. There can also be, you know, physical loss that you experience during this time, okay? Your health might take a toll during this time as well. So, you know, it's important to upkeep your healthy diet, right? To be taking those supplements, those vitamins, and to be nourishing your body during this time and to be treating it well to avoid any sickness wherever Pluto is in the heavens. That's where, you know, Pluto's transformation is going to be working out its destruction. So it's heavily dependent on the sign as well as your own personal natal chart. Again, if you would like to read your chart for current transits, definitely consider hitting the link in the description. My tip for dealing with loss in whatever capacity this may mean for you, perhaps even loss of mobility in your own physical body, is to really like sit with it and to allow yourself time to grieve, okay? And whatever that means, to surrender to, you know, your grieving process and to not judge yourself for what it should look like or what you should be doing, or, you know, even the length of grieving time. And if this loss is more emotional, which loss, you know, always tends to bring in whatever capacity, I would highly suggest checking out the shadow work video. I have a video all about shadow work and integrating, you know, your shadow into light, you know, into full awareness so that you can become a more whole individual. And I would also suggest seeking, you know, relationships that are strong, that are nourishing in your life, and really, you know, honing in on that. Pluto is a planet of isolation, but it's also like has a watery energy, right? It needs that closeness, it needs that connection, it needs people who are able to hold space for all of that. And if you don't have that, you can find that comfort maybe in some form of art or media. That's just what I would do. That's just like a personal thing. A book, a candle, a cup of tea. And then lastly, with Pluto retrograde, you can expect a level of intensity with this retrograde, right? Its energies are so intensified, especially if Pluto is retrograde in Scorpio. That's just a whole other thing, okay? There will be a tendency at this time to become hyper focused on an idea, a project, hyper focused on maybe another person, right? To become enwrapped in maybe even toxic behaviors and relationships. You can also become obsessed with a problem, you know, or with an emotional state, with an emotional frequency, right? Because of the intensity that Pluto brings. Life situations also might become harder to deal with. And my suggestion for dealing with this intensity is to recognize when you are becoming obsessive and when to pull back. I think my biggest piece of advice would be to develop just a sense of awareness and a sense of, you know, consciousness about your behavior. Now, of course, depending on where Pluto retrograde is happening in your specific natal chart, that is the area that's going to be affecting you most. But of course, there is a collective theme that these retrogrades play out in our lives. Pluto retrograde can also be affecting your prosperity, you know, your ability to build wealth. There may be perhaps significant loss during this time, or, you know, major gain. Because of that intensity, you know, there's going to be that really significant polarity. Okay, so if you are watching this video in 2022, Pluto is currently retrograde in Capricorn, and I wanted to give you some information on how to deal with this current transit. So Pluto retrograde is happening from April 29th in 2022 all the way until October 8th, with Pluto retrograde currently being in Capricorn, which rules over you know, male figures and the male archetype, as well as our career and tradition, we can expect for Pluto to be rethinking, reworking, and rebuilding this area in our lives. So we may be reworking our relationships with the men in our lives. We may also be questioning male, you know, archetypes, traditional male stereotypes, and wanting to kind of break free from tradition. There's also career changes that may be happening during this time. Again, that major loss and major gain within our careers and within business is going to be even more heightened. And we may also be dealing with themes of leadership, perhaps coming into a leadership position and accepting more responsibility in a role within our workspaces, or there may be, you know, power struggles within our workspaces as well. We're thinking about how to create large-scale impact. That tendency as well maybe to become hyper fixated on work could be an issue, so, you know, definitely take time to rest and to take pleasure in joys outside of work. Definitely check out all of my other planetary retrograde videos. I believe I have Neptune and Venus on my channel as well, and Mercury is coming. It's on the way. Like this video if you liked it. Comment down below. Let me know how you're dealing with Pluto retrograde, darling. I would love to know. We can chat in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't already and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, you know, definitely check out the link in the description if you'd like to book a session with me. I want to meet you, I want to talk to you, and I want to read your chart. Stay tuned for next week for a brand new video, and I will see you then. Bye!